guys, it's Bro You Whack, and the future for the tank role is finally looking brighter, as if we haven't been saying that for the past like 7 months, because the director's take that just released this morning talked about the future for tanks and how they're actually looking to buff the role through individual tank buffs, as if they haven't been doing that for the past 7 months. All jokes aside though, today we'll be looking at the director's take that just released today and to talk about the sneak preview that they might have given us in regards of the up and coming meta, possibly at the mid-season point for season 11 or possibly at season 12. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, the blog post that was released earlier this morning, it really didn't give us much information. Like, it did kind of, but it really didn't. The only thing that we really need to focus on for like 80% of the blog post is this word called tankiness, which is now an official measurement that the Overwatch team used to measure how good a tank is with their internal data. How much a tank dies versus how much a tank should die in a game really was what measures how tanky a tank is. And Blizzard fully admitted that tanks in Overwatch 2, especially after Season 9, have become quote-unquote less tanky due to the hitbox change, due to the DPS change, due to many factors, and they're looking to change that. And how exactly they're going to be doing it? Well, they said, we're putting together a patch that is targeted at increasing the tankiness of many of these heroes, but we're doing it through individual changes to each of them. Ideally, these changes would build on a hero's fantasy. Increasing the health of Reinhardt's shield is a good example of accomplishing both of these goals. And if you're confused on what build on a hero's fantasy means, like how I was, I'm pretty sure that just really means building on what a hero excels at, like with Reinhardt protecting the team, a diva getting in an enemy's face, diving and shooting them, and Orisa causing sadness and depression. And I think that's really good, but I think this is just, once again, just an ongoing struggle that the tank role is always going to be facing in this 5v5 format, because at least in Overwatch 1, when it was 6v6 and you had 2 tanks, you can have a main tank like a Reinhardt protect the team, but then you can also have an off tank like a diva that can go be aggressive, be DPS, and not really have to focus so much on protecting the team. Yeah, diva did have the capability of peeling to the back line and protecting against flankers, but each hero had their respective job. But now, a tank has to do both. A diva has to always protect the team and always has to be the DPS. Reinhardt always has to go and be aggressive to swing his hammer, but also has to protect his team, and that's where this internal struggle comes in with the tank role. Is like, okay, we can't make a tank too powerful by having them be able to do both jobs very well, because we still have to leave room for DPS heroes to get damage off and support heroes to not just feed into a bunch of heals in the tank, but we have to make them viable and tankier. So how can we do that? And again, that's what I mean. This is just the internal ongoing struggle with the tank role specifically. And then that leads into this trickle-down effect where it starts to affect the DPS, because it feels like they're just feeding all the damage into the tank, but they're not getting any kills, because the supports are also just feeding a bunch of heals into the tank because it's easy and they live and sustain. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how it was before Season 9 with like Mauga and Orisa. But that's just one of like 2 important parts about the blog post. The other thing that I really want to talk about the rest of the video is this next part, because they talked about how a meta can have an impact on how people react to Overwatch 2, because they say when Reinhardt hits a 60% win rate, which is considered very high for us and is played often, there are few complaints. When a hero like Roadhog does this, which he recently topped out at around 54%, the community reacts differently, and I'm sure that can also be applied for other unconventional tanks like a Hammond or a Doomfist, and vice versa. When Winston is meta, or maybe even Sigma is meta, people don't hate Overwatch 2 that much. And that's not the first time that they use Reinhardt in this example, which kind of leads me to believe that obviously they're looking to buff a majority of the tanks, but they're also bringing up statistics of when the Overwatch community likes to play Overwatch 2, and if they want people to like playing Overwatch 2 and they want to buff a few heroes, well, they're probably going to be looking to buff main tanks, more specifically Reinhardt, at either the mid-season point or in Season 12. Obviously, the goal is to make every tank hero, is to make every single Overwatch hero viable, not just with tanks, but obviously that has not been working with the tank role, and I feel like for the up-and-coming season, or maybe with the mid-season point, they're going to be looking to buff Reinhardt so much to where he's not the must-pick tank, but you wouldn't go wrong with just insta-locking Reinhardt with every single game. You know what I mean? Because if I'm going to be honest, I can't remember the last time Reinhardt's been meta. I don't even think he's been meta in the Overwatch 2 era. It's always usually been the strong triangle 3, Winston, Zarya, D.Va, and then it went into Orisa, and then Mauga for 1 point, and then back to Orisa, and then back to like maybe the strong 3. Obviously, it didn't follow that strict timeline. There's other little pockets here and there of like Hammond being meta, and maybe at one point Reinhardt that I'm forgetting, like there was a point where Reinhardt got buffed and I thought he was going to be meta, and then that dream died a couple days later. But the point that I'm trying to make here is obviously they're looking to focus on tanks, but I think Blizzard is going to be looking to take a little bit of extra time to try to make Reinhardt obviously more balanced, but maybe just an inch more powerful, because he is the shining example of sort of like the perfect tank, someone that can protect your team, also get some damage off, but also be a fair tank, unlike someone like Roadhog where it seems like he can get hooked out of left field and then die because of a trap hook combo. But that's just a theory and not a game theory because Matt Pat retired, so we're just really gonna have to see what happens with the meta. I'm guessing Reinhardt will finally be good, but who knows, maybe it'll be Doomfist, and I hope to God it's not. But as of right now, they also gave the data for the best tanks to play right now in Season 11, which is surprising. They don't really do this that often, but they said on the tank side, there's no real standout winner. They said D.Va, Sigma, Winston, Drink Queen, Reinhardt, Zarya are in the upper half, anywhere from 50 to 55% of a win rate. That's surprisingly good, given the fact that tanks are in such a terrible spot, that there is no standout winner, that there is no must-pick tank. But then they said for DPS, surprisingly, Pharah is the standout winner here at a 58% win rate. Remember how they said 60% was extremely high for them? 58% is extremely good. Reaper is at 55%. Mei is at 50%. That's not really all that great. And then Sojourn dropped all the way to 44% due to her railgun rework, which I have definitely been feeling because there was a moment where I was playing Sojourn. And then they said for supports that most supports have kind of stayed the same, where Iliari was the biggest one that moved up a couple of points. So overall, the statistics, it's very surprising to see. Now, as a DPS player, I don't see Pharahs that often, but then again, I'm also not insta-locking Pharah that much because I'm scared to ask for mercy because I got no Riz. But it's just very surprised to see the tank data as balanced, and I use the word balance very loosely here because obviously that's the whole point, and the drama with the tank role is that it's not balanced, but according to the statistics, a lot of tanks, including Reinhardt, in the 50% plus echelon, which you thought would be a lot more lower, especially with Reinhardt. So that's just surprising to see. But just to end things off, I hope and pray that this is like the final time that we're gonna see, oh, tanks are finally gonna get buffed. Tanks are finally gonna be fun to play and fair to play, because it's exhausting to see this constantly happen time and time again, to see people say, oh, if they just did 6v6, all of this would be fixed, which I'm not disagreeing with them, but it's like, okay, we have to live with 5v5 at this point because Blizzard has made it very apparent they don't want to go back to 6v6. Otherwise, they would have done it by now. They're trying to make 5v5 work, and hopefully this will be the last major tank buff. But tank players, let me know what you want to see done to your favorite tanks, what you think would be more fair to make them more quote-unquote tankier. And until then, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.